So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody, whatever part of the world you're currently listening to our video blog and podcast on the Face Economics podcast, the utilization of the social media platform and economic development worldwide. My name is Al Mina, the concept author of Face Economics. Today's actually the 24th of December. Imagine that, just a few more days, and 2025 will be in the books. It'll be in the past, in our history, in the next couple of days. Having said that, I decided to actually do my year-end podcast as I normally do every year. I mean, every New Year at least. Uh, Wherever I'm located. But since I may be traveling this coming New Year, so I thought I'd just go ahead and squeeze this podcast in and just kind of reflect on the year. It's not going to be a long reflection, just mainly because there really wasn't a whole lot of, current events, political activities that took place, other than some very positive ones, obviously. And as many of you are aware, we've um, gotten a new administration last January, and they did a lot of heavy lifting and cleaning up and basically incorporating their management skills into the government and whatever was left of it, at least once they took office. Um, but yeah, so that's something that I just kind of want to share with you guys. Obviously, the Trump administration had promised that they were going to do what they have been doing, and so far, they've managed to improve the pre-existing condition. Uh, and on top of that, they actually managed to uh, kind of lessen the tension in Europe. It's between Russia and Ukraine, which was basically what was a part of their campaign promise, is to uh, look into a peaceful solution between Ukraine and Russia, and they did, exactly just that. They brokered a de-escalation of the conflict for the most part. Obviously, it's still an ongoing issue, but at least they managed to talk with both sides, unlike the previous administration that provided no, solution to the problem. They mainly, developed an escalatory position in which they weren't talking to the Russians. So that wasn't helpful at all diplomatically and overall, escalating the conflict. With that said, what else happened this year? There's quite a bit of stuff that, kind of evolved within the periphery of some, policies. So obviously, there was a crackdown on illegal immigration in the country. So that was also a part of Mr. Trump's, you know, uh, campaign promise, basically. He also mentioned that he was going to declassify certain, files, which is now happening. So, obviously, this Epstein file that has been sealed for the longest time is now available for the public to uh, review and reflect on, even though most of what I've heard, majority of the materials have been redacted. So depending on what it is that you're looking for, you might not be able to find exactly or within, the overall fullness and breadth of what it is that is detailed within the files that before they were redacted, obviously. So yeah, so that's one of within the headlines just the last couple of weeks. And the National Guard was basically activated by the Trump administration to kind of crack down also on some of the crazy things that's been going on in many of our major cities, not just in the Washington D.C. area, but throughout the country. So there's definitely some relief to the mayors of the bigger cities um, that have been plagued by crime and lawlessness. So the Trump administration actually provided that relief to these bigger cities, their mayors, their populations, local public, by cracking down on crime and, basically discouraging uh, more issues to evolve, crime-wise. So that's been a very positive, I guess, and welcome, uh, you know, uh, I guess, solution to these quagmires, these city problems that many mayors, depending, regardless of their, party affiliation, Republican or Democrat, they definitely welcome many of these reduction of crime and criminal activities throughout their cities. So yeah, that's a significant change that just took place this year compared to previous years, obviously. Uh, what else happened this year? Let's see. So in the state of Virginia, we had a gubernatorial contest, and um, it was a pretty interesting turn of events. Predominantly of the Republican nominees uh, were not elected into office or returned to office. If they're already now in office, they're not going to be back this January. So they've been basically replaced by, a whole ticket full of Democrats. It could be a good thing, could be a bad thing. I don't know. Well, we shall see. But that took place this year, just last November, and in the state of Virginia. There's been several contests also in other states, but they're not as, wildly covered compared to the ones that took place in New Jersey, New York, and Virginia. Granted that the one in New York was mostly, the mayor mayoral elections, but it just still pretty significant. I would say that there was a major change in the attitude of the public regarding certain parties that prevailed this year. So what else happened? You know, um, Looking back, I mean, I guess people tends to reflect on this issue about politics and how a pendulum tends to swing both ways, and this and that in terms of um, whatever it is the tea leaves tends to support. I guess the tea leaves would be historical, you know um, kind of legends regarding certain conditions in politics and conditions within the social environment of a country, and even political. So um, we live in a very different world today. Okay, I mean, many people still reflect on the past and what could have been and what should have been and what should the current state of affairs should be. Now, I do support a very conservative agenda in terms of social, conservatism and fiscal conservatism. But I do understand also that the world tends to evolve and society evolve, mindsets evolve, our awareness evolve, our overall attitude to certain conditions evolve, it evolves, and even our worldview. But with that said, folks, there's still plenty of room to, in terms of conservatism throughout the country and throughout the world. Mainly because, even though there's a lot of, changes that technology had brought in, there are certain conditions in the society that you simply do not want to aggravate or disrupt too much. Mainly, because uh, society evolves based off of what serves its purpose. What are the conditions that will basically provide value to a society? When you disrupt that, when you're no longer providing value, but you're instead forcing society to support an agenda or subscribe to a mentality or mindset that is not of quality or value to them, they tend to push back. And there are a lot of prevailing, conservative values that still can be implemented to this day, and still should be supported and preserved. Now, if you were to, look at culture and the overall trajectory of our political system in the U.S., you can't, justify illegal immigration because, a country is a sovereign, you know, uh, government that needs to basically protect its borders and overall sovereign rights to implement its immigration policies and laws. So every country has that right to do, and that's just the same as the U.S. So there is no point for people to advocate for supporting illegal immigration and even attacking those people that are enforcing, illegal migration into the U.S. because we have tons of people that are undocumented and we have no idea who they are, where they came from, or what they've done in their countries prior to coming to the U.S. Okay, folks. So yeah, so let's kind of put common sense back into the mix here, because folks, I understand. I've served in the U.S. Peace Corps. I'm probably one of the most compassionate person you'll ever meet. I've given the shirt off my back. I've set myself on fire to make other people warm. I understand that people needs to be supported if they're less fortunate, if they're going through hardship. I completely agree, and I would support that kind of compassion. What I don't support is blindly, attacking our law enforcement officers and officials and those that are trying to implement our sovereign right of protecting our immigration policy. Now, I don't understand people would want, attack any of our uh, ICE agents, for example. Look, my parents came to this country after waiting for almost a decade, okay, almost a decade in line just to come to the US. And when, lo and behold, it wasn't, the heaven that they thought it would be, but yet they still persevered and they waited and until it's their turn to um, move in and basically be invited to immigrate legally into the U.S. And that should be the case for everyone. Now, I understand that everybody has education and qualification and skills that will qualify them to be invited. And there's going to be people that are obviously going to be at the lower end in terms of education or skill set or any other prerequisite for people to be able to allow to immigrate in the U.S. But at the end of the day, you don't want to be that person to be, discriminated against, marginalized, your civil rights, human rights, um, ignored, basically. I mean, there are people now that are in the country legally that's been discriminated against, civil and human rights violated, institutional racism. They've been, subjected to institutional racism. So at least uh, consider what I'm just saying. I completely agree with helping those people that are less fortunate around the world. But sometimes we also need to think about, what it would be in our best interest and in also their best interest, because when they come here, it's an illegal, then they really don't have any rights. And most of the time, they're the ones that are, marginalized and taken advantage of. Anyway, so with that said, thank you for listening to my short year-end review podcast. Um, oh, by the way, I will be running for office again, this time as a Republican candidate. So please consider supporting us and tell your family and friends about our agenda. We're going to be operating in a very different, style of politics. We're definitely not going to be using the same playbook as everybody else that are going to be campaigning in the upcoming November 3rd, 2026 U.S. general election. We're setting ourselves, far, far, far from the status quo, the same old fake, political agendas, fake personas, fake websites, fake everything, trying to convince the public that they're qualified for the position, whereas there's no proof that they've actually done what it is they claim to be a subject matter expert in. So we're gonna be separating ourselves from everybody else within eight. I believe there's now seven, but altogether there's eight of us that are going to be campaigning. And so, yeah, that's just our overall game plan, unless there's other more people that would decide to join the race. But at this point, I've decided to conduct a very different, campaign compared to 5 years ago when I run as an independent. Yeah, so please do support us. Tell your family and friends about our overall initiative. I'm going to focus in on economic development, job creation, healthcare for the less fortunate and the individuals that cannot afford to gain access to healthcare. Also, I'm going to be advocating for civil rights, human rights, and the rights of those that have been marginalized in our country. I'm also going to be sharing some of my experiences, personal experience and professional experience. So I'm actually going to be talking about stuff that happened to me. I'm not just going to be, slinging opinions and talking about stuff that I have no subject matter expertise in or experience in or have, some sort of exposure to. Unlike many of my competitions, they love to talk about stuff that they really don't know anything about. Some of them can afford people to give them advice, the political consultants, they have their staff, all that stuff. You know, I'm starting from grassroots, separating myself from everybody else because I'm different. If you look at, the rosters of people campaigning, I'm the most different. The way I look, the way I talk, the way I operate, the way I, um, provide solutions, I'm very different. Okay. And that's maybe something that I have good going for me because the pre existing condition in the state of Virginia, a state that hasn't grown economically in the last 20 years, is in really bad shape. I mean, the state needs something different, very different to the point that, whoever's going to be the next senator or government representative in Washington has to operate significantly different, okay, in order to succeed. The status quo is no longer going to work, given that we now live in an age where, all these technological advancement, new concept, world evolutions of how societies, cities, communities, countries evolve. We're having to race everybody to the top. And you can't race everybody to the top when you're trying to pull everybody down in order for you to keep your position at the top. It's not going to work. So we have a very different strategy. Please tell your friends and family to consider supporting us. Go to our YouTube channel, follow our podcast. Um, you know, subscribe to our social media platforms. We update those regularly, sometimes even a few times a day. So we're going to try to stay relevant, effective, efficient, and consistent to our objectives in terms of making Virginia great again or great even greater. So yeah, that's the whole situation, folks. Please let me know if you have any questions. Feel free to, jot it down on the description section or comment section of this video blog. You can also connect with us via our Facebook page and Instagram and other social media platform, YouTube, obviously. So all that stuff, please, consider supporting us. We need your help. We've got no millions in our bank account compared to the incumbent that we're going against. He's managed to get millions donated to him before there was even an election, before even the 2026 season is about, it was to kick off. So imagine that. And on top of that, he's got over $200 million in his personal bank account and, other assets and all that stuff. So we're not just, campaigning against somebody who is just a regular citizen. We're campaigning against King Mark Warner, a king, the guy who has assets all over the state and even outside of the states. He's got millions worth in his campaign funds as well as his personal account. And, you know, he's, one of the richest senators in the whole country. All right. But obviously, there's a catch. You can't just become so wealthy while in office without actually using certain tactics and tools that would increase your net worth and overall intangible assets. So we're going to be talking about those. We're also going to be sharing some of, uh, I guess, information regarding how King Mark Warner's wallet grew to the size that it is today. Okay. When he started off in government, he was not anywhere near his net worth today. Uh, so we'll discuss all that, and please follow us, subscribe to our channel, consider donating to our campaign and sharing our platform, our YouTube channel, our podcast, our social media, platforms with your family and friends. And let's kind of, move from the pre-existing condition of the status quo, the haves versus the have-nots, because the haves are always going to come at the top because they have something that the have-nots don't have or they won't give them access to. So with that said, folks, thank you for watching. I'm looking forward to seeing you again next year in the year 2026. Until we meet again, I hope you all have a wonderful Christmas and a blessed New Year. Thank you. Take care. Bye bye.